What has shifted for you around the work that you're doing in the world and your why?
Well, a big shift has been since George Floyd and that horrific
Yeah.
event. And then I have been peeling back the onion. And I think what's alarming me is that when I started Dance to Be Free, I wanted to stay out of the race conversation because I thought it's about trauma. And I honestly, where I was going in Colorado and Nebraska was primarily white. The prisoners were majority white. And so I was just like, I'm not really seeing the race issue here. And then I had a really good friend of mine who does a lot of white awareness work, trying to point things out over the years. And I could just feel myself like, I don't know. And I think if I was in my own denial, I think instead of saying white privilege, it helps to say white denial or white silence or white cowardice. But it just was interesting to see how I wouldn't fully let in the race conversation. And then as I go into the South, it's so different. And the last time I went into Mississippi, there was Demetrius with me, who's Black, and then a bunch of Black women were in the training, and they came up to Demetrius one day and said, if a white woman makes a complaint about a Black woman, there's no questions asked. You get written up or you're thrown in solitary. And they were telling Demetrius, not me. And I was just standing there kind of listening and thought, oh, that's so sad. Like, I've been there 3 or 4 times and they hadn't told me. And I wondered if I am just unconsciously not even safe deep down. I represent a lot. I mean, I am as pale as they get. I mean, blue eyes, the whole thing. And I feel super welcomed and loved, honestly. Um, but the women even call me Miss Lucy. And it's like, whoo, okay. And so just the remnants of slavery that are in that area of the country, and a place like Mississippi holds so much trauma. There were the most lynchings in that state than any other state. And I just was watching Mississippi Burning, which is such a tragic movie. I recommend watching. You know, this little girl, Ruby Bridge, was trying to go to school when she was maybe 6, and these white people were screaming at her. They had a government agent had to escort her to school every day, and a white woman on the side was screaming, and she held up a coffin with a Black doll in the coffin to terrorize this little girl who's trying to learn. And then just being in that civil rights museum, there's just so much that I want to do down there. And I think I want to get Kelsey involved. And she's so brilliant, and she's doing a ton around oppression and the body, and white supremacy in the body. So I'm hoping to collaborate with her, because I think I've been blind to maybe my unquestioned even authority or power that I have just walking in. And then I think about the book, My Grandmother's Hands, which I really recommend. And it's about racialized trauma in the Black body, the white body, and the blue body, meaning police, law enforcement. And he's saying, Resma Manikim is his name. He said that what white people have done to Black people was done to us as European descendants. We're actually just transferring the trauma on. And what he said, which was like, was, what does the white body have to do to remain silent to such horrific brutality? And I think, what spiritually, almost had to die in us to, I just saw a photograph from, I think the early 1900s, of a Black man hanging from a tree, while white people just stood there with, their hands on their hips, like they were talking about the weather. And there were 2 little white girls. And I'm thinking, what is happening in the white psyche and body to just think that's even in the realm of, so I feel like I have so much learning to do. And just a quick story. My family's from Virginia, and there's a memoir from it's a really interesting, can you see that?
The Children of Bladen's Field.
So this, my family bought this plantation in the 1840s, but this actual plantation was built in 1690. I think there were slaves there when they got this property. And then I went down there in the 80s. So when I was, I don't know, 10 years old, and I was playing with this dollhouse, and it was so big. It was, huge. So it was so memorable, like big dolls and big rocking chairs. And I was just like, I always remembered that dollhouse. And when I looked through this memoir recently, I saw that dollhouse and it said slave built dollhouse. And I thought, I was playing with slave toys. Like, what in my,
Yeah.
and the haze, again, of like, whoa. And it was my ex-boyfriend who asked my mom over Christmas one time, did you have slaves in your ancestry? And I'm like, why did it take him? Maybe that's why we were together, so he could. And my mom just said, yeah, it was just kind of matter of fact. And, but that kind of, I just have some unraveling to do. I think Dance to Be Free, my purpose feels a little bit shifting to the Deep South, and that's primarily where we are. But I feel like I want to really hunker down there because it's like I'm realizing Black people have literally never had a shot at thriving ever in our history, and when I see people say it's about behavior, not color, I just think we don't know our history. And the more I unravel around the predatory mortgage loaning they would do, and we created the ghetto. I mean, it just which leads to mass incarceration. And then it's just like, why can't they pull themselves up by their bootstraps? And then the system never reflects on the whiteness of the whole madness. And it's always on objectifying why they do this and why. And so it's on us. It's on us to do the work.